It's been so interesting watching you all install the piece here on Main Street back to its home place. And talk a bit, if you will, about, with an installation like this, who's with you today facilitating this and what their involvement's been.
We have, Verdon has service guys and installers all over the country that will go out and install anything that we build. Casey, that is over here wiring the clock right now, was involved in the fabricating from the start. Casey is a huge asset to the company. He not only has the fabrication skills, but he has an artistic background that you don't get very often with fabricators. He has an eye for a lot of things that it takes a talented person to get. So with him being involved in building the clock and fabricating the parts and the whole deal, it only made sense to us to go ahead and let him come out and install it himself. The installer would have basically never seen the clock before until they got on site. Trying to write up directions and explain something this custom just didn't make sense. So Casey was very happy to be a part of coming out and installing it. Spending that many hours on a project, it is nice to get out and see it once it's installed and in its proper place.
We've done so much in conjunction with your all's wonderful work to make all the historic elements of the clock, both the original and those that were missing, be just right. Tell us a bit about what's been done to bring the operations of it into the 21st century.
Yeah, we've upgraded the timepiece that will actually run the clocks. It's a pulse movement. Our controller at the top of the panel in here is what tells the timepiece to move the hands. Of course, it's all digital. We've got fuses and everything in the base. Everything is right accessible for maintenance and any time that we'll need to get in there. The lights are operated by a photo cell. We've got the LEDs in the clock, LEDs in the eyes, and then of course the neon on top. All are operated from the same photo cell. They will turn on and off at the same time. And then we've got a switch that'll kill all the lights if they need to be worked on or anything like that. But like I said, everything's right in the base for you to get to, on display for you to be able to very easily access.
Well, and it'll adjust automatically for time changes?
Absolutely. The controller knows when daylight savings time is. We'll change that. Let's say you have a power outage, whether it's a storm. The internal battery will, once the electric is brought back on, internal battery will turn it on, bring the hands back to the current time, and you shouldn't have to change a thing.
Well, that'll be great, and people will be able to once again count on an accurate historic street clock right here on Main Street.
When we got the clock from you guys a couple of years ago, it was missing a few pieces. This piece here is the access cover for the side of the clock that was missing. Whether when the clock took a fall and it broke, who knows what happened to it, but a quick fix could have been, this could have been made out of sheet metal, or it could have been made out of aluminum, it could have been made out of anything. And honestly, probably nobody walking down the street would have ever known any different. But we recast the piece in our foundry in Cincinnati, recast it using a pattern that we made for this. We recast it so it's cast just like it would have been 100 years ago when the Brown Street Clock Company would have cast it. And this will last, until a car hits it and it falls on the ground again. Nothing will break this unless it is physically weather or age is not going to affect this. And we feel like that's what sets us apart, is making it the correct way, the way that they would have made it when it was made 100 years ago.
To really make it. Okay. Well, tell us some, Tommy, if you would, about the transition piece that goes from the fluted column up to under the head of the clock.
That was also a challenging part of the clock. As you know, that piece didn't exist anymore that we know of anyway. So again, we went back to the pictures, looked at them. We have an artist on staff that was able to sculpt that enough for us to have a pattern and a mold to cast that out of fiberglass and get that looking what we think is just like the original. A lot of time and a lot of thought put in it, but I think it turned out very well. What we were just doing is trying to eyeball the dials to make sure that they are straight to our eyes. Today with new clocks, everything is done by computer to make all those minute ticks perfectly even and straight. Of course, when these dials were made, they were hand laid out. So, it's not as easy as throwing a level on it because they're not going to be level. So it's, they're very close. Most people probably will never notice, but that's what, we kind of adjust it, step back, look at it, see if it looks aesthetically correct, and then, proceed, which is a little different than your standard street clock that we install, which adds to the fun of it.
Well, sure, and I'm sure in the day when these clocks were originally made, that's exactly how they accomplished it too.
That's
Stand back, look at it.
Yep.
Does it look good to the eye? They're good.
That's right.
Fortunately, we're having a lot of fun tonight. There's a lot of fun to be had. There are so many of you here tonight and others who care about our city and about what this Scullers clock represents. It represents a little of each of us, a moment of memory. And for some, a little bit more than just a moment of memory. Like Bob and Rena Wiseman.
Bob's there. Yeah.
Bob's here. Rena's not tonight, but Bob is here. They're still married though, so let me tell you the story. They bought their wedding rings right here at Scullers a little while ago, Bob said. So this instrument of time is one that measures memories and emotions of that day, of course, for Rena and for Bob. And then, according to Win Meeker, who's going to speak in just a minute, there was an older man who approached Win a few years ago while she was fundraising for the clock right down at the farmer's market. He told Win he had proposed to his wife under the clock and that they'd gone inside the store and bought a ring. And he told Win that his wife had passed away just 2 weeks before. And then he reached into his pocket and pulled out his billfold, and he put all he had in Win's bucket. With tears, he said, for my wife. And then, thanks, Bob. And then, where's Betty Kerr? Betty, where are you? Right here. And then, there we go, Betty. Thank you, Betty. And then there was a lady that Betty Kerr met while also fundraising for the clock on the 4th of July 2 years ago. And this lady told Betty that she counted on this clock, the Scullers clock, to help her catch the bus so she could ride to work. She left Betty. She told her she'd be back in a couple of hours. She came back in a couple of hours with a plastic bag full of coins to save the clock. And artist Eric Johnson is with us tonight too. Eric, where are you? Right there. Yes, Eric. People have always talked about the clock's eyes. Well, it was Eric who repainted the eyes back for us. Thank you, Eric. Okay, for a little bit of more recent history, a 1974 storm that swept through downtown and knocked the head of the clock to the ground also knocked off those signature eyeglasses. Scullers repaired the clock and returned it to its original perch, where it remained until 2010, when it was taken down for the sidewalk improvements. Now it's back where it belongs. Part of our, there we go. Part of our unique and special and authentic history, and still important to our city, like all of you here tonight, along with dozens and hundreds of good-hearted citizens who made this evening possible through your donations. $30,000 altogether raised in private funds from the Caton family. Karen is here. Alan Grimes and his wife, Lamar Dupree Grimes, representing Dupree and Company, Tom. Marcia and Tim Cohn, Marcia and Tim. Randy Kemper and Monty Gay Long, among others. Thank you all. And thanks also to the Sculler family for their gifts, encouragement, and support. Four great-granddaughters of Lena and Harry Sculler are here tonight. Barbara Cohen Rubin, Erica Cohen Mash, Julie Sorrell, and Sylvia Sorrell Sewell.
And really, I think the mayor has said a lot of the important things that this clock represents for all of us, but I'm here to tell you a little bit about what this landmark that the Scullers clock represents for our family, from our name that was my great-grandmother's, as well as for the town. So we have actually all four of the great-grandchildren of my great-grandma, who came with her husband at the turn of the century and started a little store and then worked hard and came up with a better store and finally ended up here. And they put the clock on Main Street, like many other small towns had clocks, and they gave it to the city, and that sort of matched their values. And great-grandma worked in that store with her husband, though her name, like most of the other women working with their husbands, wasn't on the deeds or the historic documents you see at the turn of the century. But great-grandma was widowed in 1937. And in the depths of the Depression, with a store that frankly wasn't doing very well at all, great-grandma did not pack up and go and live with the relatives in Ohio. Great-grandma did not give up on working and take her only daughter and move away. Great-grandma stayed and worked 6 days a week in the Scullers store until around a week before she died in 1984, which, if you think about it, is 5 decades. So, but I'm really grateful, and I just want people, when they look at this clock, to remember or think about this woman before her time and think about those values. And I want to thank everyone here who helped. I'm really grateful, and the whole family is really grateful to the very hard and thoughtful work that Ms. Betty Kerr and the Historic Commission and the people here who understand history so well put into the research and the hard work that people put into literally saving our clock. Just like on Main Street, we're a block from the old courthouse, and this is part of what makes our town special and why we're all back. Thank you.
All right, and now it is time for the fun part for sure. In just a minute, we're going to reset the clock, and after we throw the switch, it will synchronize to the right time, as Wynn said, in a little while. So, in a few minutes, so here we go. Drum roll. All right. And here we go. Cymbals. Wow. Yes.